Hello everyone, and welcome to the next event in the Let's Do It in the Cloud webinar series. Every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, guest presenters from Agilis Solutions, Dell Boomi, IDC, SafeNet, Think Strategies, and Zuora have been walking you through tips, tricks, and best practices for conquering some of the most challenging obstacles associated with cloud service delivery. My name is Michelle Nerlinger, and I'll be your moderator for the session. For software vendors, success in the cloud requires more than just building a useful or even innovative service. You need to effectively monetize that solution, which is why we're being joined today by two folks whose organizations are dedicated to enabling software monetization in the cloud. Please welcome me in joining Jeff Yoshimura, VP of Marketing for Zuora, the leader in subscription billing and payment solutions, and Jake Fox, Senior Director of New Product Development and Management for SafeNet, the industry's leading provider of software licensing and entitlement management solutions. Today, Jake and Jeff will provide best practices for approaching each aspect of software monetization in the cloud. You'll get insight that will help you shorten time to market, simplify customer capture, fuel product innovation, and ultimately maximize profitability. By the end of this session, you'll be able to understand how to flexibly package, provision, control, and track usage of your application, how to accurately generate and deliver invoices, collect payments, and track cash flow, and finally, how to effectively manage the customer lifecycle from initial purchase and renewals to upgrades and beyond. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you that questions can be submitted at any time during the live webcast. Simply click the questions button on your screen to enter your question. We will answer the questions at the end of our webcast during Q&A. Jeff and Jake will both have visibility to the questions coming in throughout the course of the webinar, so we do encourage you to use this feature to not only ask questions, but to share your experiences and to help guide the direction of the dialogue. For those of you social media users on the line, we encourage you to also join the conversation on Twitter. Please use hashtag LDIITC, short for Let's Do It in the Cloud, so we can address your questions and comments real time throughout the event. Finally, since we always get this question pretty quickly on, yes, the presentation will be made available via SlideShare shortly after the event, as well as immediately after the event, and on-demand replay will be available on BrightTalk. Now, without further ado, I'll hand the session over to Jake to get us started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our event. Let's just get started first by taking a look back. If we look back, to 1999 with Salesforce and their launch of a service, at the time it seemed a bit surprising. A simple subscription model was going to take over the world. But if we look to now, 12 years later, the SaaS model is the norm. Global SaaS revenue should hit $12.1 billion this year, a 20% jump from revenue of $10 billion in 2002, according to Gartner. And then if you look at some stats from IDC, 70% of U.S. companies are using public cloud, while 30+% expect 2014 spending on enterprise apps will be via the cloud model. And then 79% expect cloud to increase by over 20% for this year. So clearly, SaaS adoption in the model for SaaS-delivered applications really is the norm. So let's look at some proof points. The App Exchange is a great example. Back in 2006 when it launched, just a few apps were there. And now, in 2011, over 1 million installs of applications delivered as a service. And another proof point, looking at some of the giants in the industry, HP with their announcements expanding their software as a service strategy, Symantec seeing a rise in shares rise based on their revenue plans, and then Dell with their strategy of acquiring and building out their cloud and SaaS offerings. So,
this is Jeff here from Zuora, right? So, I think Jake talks about, really, how the software industry has changed over the last 12 or 13 years, and these proof points. And what it boils down to is SaaS, software as a service. It's about monetizing lifetime relationships. It's a business model for the future, and it's about how do you take this relationship and start somebody off small, move them to a paid model, add new services, upgrade them, and renew them, and make them happy customers over a lifetime. And the SaaS model and one of the primary reasons why companies are adopting the SaaS model and why the big enterprises are carving out new divisions or acquiring companies or merging with companies is because the SaaS model allows for predictable growth. If you look at the traditional business of license revenue, it's pretty flat, right? You sign up customers, they pay for the software on a perpetual basis. You got a little bit of a maintenance stream on an annual basis, but the ability to drive revenue growth over time is really not there. In a subscription business, if you acquire that first set of customers in year one and you assume that your churn rate is sub 5%, you can expect that 95% of that revenue is going to continue in year two, and you also can't expect that they'll have upsell, say it's 10% upsell, another 20% that customers grow and mature into more products. So there's a ton of upside with subscription businesses, which is in the green, and that just continues to progress as customers stay on board as customers year in and year out. And the Wall Street Journal, had an article that said that every dollar that a cloud company brings in is considered to be worth 6 times as much as the model the old way, which was the on-premise traditional license model. So that's a really powerful statement that really is backed up by Wall Street valuations. And when you look at the valuations of these SaaS businesses like Salesforce or NetSuite or even Concur, and you look at that versus some of the traditional on-premise businesses, and Jake shared a slide about how Symantec has had a share price uplift because of their SaaS revenue. It's really Wall Street that is driving kind of the valuations of these SaaS businesses and ultimately pushing more and more companies to move to this model. And just this year, even in a very flat kind of financial and IPO market, some of the top IPOs this year have been SaaS businesses. So whether it's Zipcar or Pandora, LinkedIn, HomeAway, and Carbonite, these are all subscription software as a service businesses that have hit the IPO market just this year. So I want to pass it back to Jake, and Jake, maybe you can tell us a little bit about kind of some of the challenges that software providers have and kind of what you've been seeing, and I can talk about what we've been seeing. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Jake. Jeff, the challenges for software providers definitely are there. If you consider that all the great opportunities from a SaaS point of view, those challenges do stand out, especially when you look at the current tools that support the software business, both in licensing and entitlements and billing and payments. From a licensing standpoint, the ability to bundle features, license services, provision those services in an automated fashion, and manage those entitlements over time, tracking and controlling that use is definitely the challenges that SaaS providers have to solve. And then on the billing and payment side, pricing, packaging, subscriptions, handling the billings and payments in a service offering is definitely new challenges for software providers.
So why don't I kind of take everybody back to the world of traditional software. When you look at building and deploying and taking orders and payment for traditional software, it's easy, right? It's a simple pricing model. Typically, price times number of units, whether it's software or whether it's boxes, and your quoting process around that is also quite simple. It's you say that you want X amount of units for this price, you add some taxation to that, you add some shipping fees, and you're done. Your invoice is also easy because it's that invoice, say net 30 on initial purchase, and then maybe a year later you have a maintenance fee that gets tagged onto that. And then your payment process is generally simple as well because it's one payment. There's no recurring element there. It's a simple payment process. So your start-to-end process with traditional software is pretty easy. When you look at software as a service, everything becomes much more complex. And I know this is a busy slide here, but let me just walk everybody through kind of this complexity and why software companies that move to this model have to think about much more. First of all, on the left-hand side, when you create your product and you create your offer, you're looking at, how do I do pricing and packaging? Do I do a free trial? How do I want to do access control? How do I want to manage add-on units? How do I want to manage upgrades? Do I want to do pricing tiers? Do I want to have international currencies? Do I want to have a regional pricing plan? And that is really at the start, right? You're thinking about all these things that you want to do with your product to enable you to have that competitive differentiator in the marketplace. The second thing that you do is, as you move to the right side, you start to have complexity around subscription management and around order management. So how do you provision users that get certain features versus other features? How do you have your quoting and your order process keep track of monthly or quarterly or annual type of terms? How do you manage change and amendments and renewals? How do you ensure that the entitlements and terms are attached to the right users around access control? And then how do you look at ad hoc pricing? So you have customers where you might want to have an upsell or a cross-sell, or maybe you want to give certain favorable customers some discounts. How do you do that around making sure that customer is ultimately happy and successful and continuing to use your service? And then after you look at the subscription management complexity, you get into billing and payments complexity. And if you're a CFO or if you're a VP of finance, what you're thinking about is, how do I do proration? What if I have customers that add units mid-term? How do I handle that? How do I do co-term contracts where I have an initial order, then I have an add-on order, and I want to co-term that add-on order to the initial order? How do I align my charges? So you can have customers signing up in a SaaS world on every single day of the month, at any time or any hour of given day. So how do you do charge alignment? Do you want that customer to be charged on the day of every single month that they've signed up? Or do you want to push them to, say, the first or second of each month? How do you want to deal with charge alignment? How do you handle credit and refunds? And how do you do ad hoc invoicing? So you have adjustments and you want to quickly push out an invoice, and you don't want to have to wait 30 days or 45 days for that invoice to sit in your finance department because there have to be manual calculations. What you want to have is the ability to be able to do these ad hoc invoicing on the fly. And then finally, how do you take all this great data, the analytics, and use that to really get intelligence about your product from what's my uptake? What products are producing at a higher MRR, or monthly recurring revenue value? What is my day sales outstanding, and can I reduce that from 45 to 30 days? And what's the impact of revenue? How do I manage my churn rate from having a 10% churn rate and move that to a 2% churn rate? And maybe I can offer a promotion and offer it 30 days in advance. Or enable my customer service reps or my renewal reps to have all this data, 6 months in advance, so that we're proactively managing our customers versus just getting that renewal notice on the date of renewal. And I know that we've all had those scenarios, whether it's with your magazine or newspaper scenarios, your subscription's up and you get that renewal notice and you get it pretty much on that day of, and you're like, I don't really want to renew. So how do you effectively, proactively manage churn? And then obviously, how do you look at managing the usage and license tracking? So when you look at this holistically, there is a lot more complexity with that SaaS model. So despite there having all these benefits of Wall Street, of being a better business model, of being kind of the favored model around how to manage your customer relationships, the SaaS model breeds much more complexity than that traditional on-premise license. And really the nice thing about this is today, there are solutions and companies out there that are really looking to help software providers succeed in this new world of the cloud. And Jake, maybe you can kind of walk us through kind of the new kind of concept of a software lifecycle monetization.
Thanks, Jeff. Happy to. So I think Jeff set this up really nicely. If you look at how a software publisher would monetize their software, we can boil it down to four major points. The need to package, deliver, bill, and handle payments, and then handle the renewal process as customers change and grow. So let's look at each one. So step one, you need to package your offering. From a licensing and entitlement standpoint, you need to bundle your features so you can decide which features need to be controlled at time of licensing. You also need to define the limits of allowed rights, and you need to select the license model by which you're going to control access to that service. From a billing and payment standpoint, you need to define your product. You need to build pricing plans, regional plans, upmarket plans, downmarket plans, and you need to choose a business model that fits your offering. For step two, you need to deliver the service. And as you deliver the service, you need to provision those users' rights. You need to authorize the use of that service for those licensed users. And as they're using the service, you'll want to collect usage so that you can offer metered models. From a billing and payment standpoint, you need to get to that subscription. You need to create a quote, which turns into an order, and then ultimately get your new subscribers up and running. And then step three is to bill and collect for your service. So you need to provide the necessary usage information to a billing system, Zuora, in order for the invoices to be created. You need to have compliance reporting in order to ensure that customers are using what they've paid for. From a billing standpoint, you need to create an invoice, collect payment, and handle all the operational aspects around the billing process itself. And then finally, when your customers renew, upgrade, add on, you'll need to have a process for upgrading their licenses and entitlements, provisioning those new users, those new rights, changing the model by which they're purchasing your service. All of that needs to be provisioned out into the service environment so that you can continue to control their use of the service. And then from a billing and payment standpoint, you need to update their subscription, add that new service, the additional users, the add-ons, and complete that subscription renewal for the next term. And this really brings it all together with Zuora and SafeNet, providing the features that come together in order to really enable that software monetization lifecycle. Jeff, what's your view on this?
Yeah, I think this is just really important. So for those of you on the call, I've been in the software as a service industry now for almost 9 years. I started with Salesforce.com really early on. So I really saw that shift in terms of how Salesforce really built out their multi-tenant, on-demand CRM platform that eventually evolved into a platform as a service with Force.com. And then, what we did was we looked to help an ecosystem and build out, hundreds and hundreds of ISVs and developers so that they can build apps and easily distribute those apps. And one of the main things that every single either app provider or ISV moving to the model or developers had was the questions were around, how do I monetize this new model, and how do I manage my entitlements, my licensing and provisioning? And the honest truth is any company that had to operate in this model before now really built homegrown solutions in order to do that. So I think that the time is right. There's thousands and thousands of ISVs that are moving to this model. They see the shift coming. They hear what Gartner and other analyst groups are saying. They hear what customers are saying, and everybody wants to be in the cloud. And these are really the two main kind of points that hit upon what's going to make an ISV really, really successful.
Thanks, Jeff.
So I think we haven't really talked about Zuora much, and what I wanted to do was just kind of paint a picture here in terms of what we've done and what we're seeing. We talked a lot about how kind of software and cloud, they're moving to subscriptions and they're kind of really leading that charge. But this shift is at a bigger macro level. We're seeing this shift in music. We're seeing this shift in transportation. We're seeing this shift in movies and healthcare and financial services. So you're seeing that the preferred way for consumers to get access to services and information is through subscriptions. And we've been calling this shift now for the last 4 years the subscription economy. And the 20th century business model was really about a shopping cart, and you have price times unit and manufacturing of products. The 21st century business model is about subscription. How do you capture customers? How do you renew them? How do you have a customer for life? And what's been really, really interesting is Gartner is starting to pick this up. They forecast that by 2015, just a few years away from now, that 35% of global 2,000 companies will generate revenue from subscription-based services. So the things that we all consume every single day will be as a service. People always ask us, well, why do you exist, Zuora? Oracle and SAP, there's other kind of ERP systems in the cloud out there. Well, the truth is that all of these systems were built for a manufacturing era. They weren't built for SaaS. They weren't built for subscriptions. So if you look at the data model of these ERP systems, it's really price times unit. There's no concept of a subscription, or no concept of doing multi-tier pricing, or handling usage or pay-as-you-go pricing, or being able to do upgrades and renewals and add-ons really, really easily. So this is really why we've existed and why we've been able to accelerate our business over the last 4 years. And what we've done is nothing that's a secret out there. We built a new commerce platform in the cloud, multi-tenant, full APIs, monthly release cycle, disaster recovery, to handle everything that Jake and I have been talking about, from how do you want a pricing package, to how do you manage your subscriptions, to how do you do billing and payments, to how do you track and analyze all of your subscription metrics. And just a little bit about our company. We're based here in Silicon Valley, but we are a global company today. We were founded by the 11th employee of Salesforce.com, who was Chief Strategy Officer and CMO, over 9 years working for Mark. And one of his tasks was to build the custom billing system for Salesforce.com. And that is how he really got this vision, because he went out to the marketplace and looked at all the major SaaS companies out there and asked them, what are you doing for billing? Every single company said that we are building their own. Netflix built their own billing system. WebEx built their own billing system. These are all people that are part of our team here at Zuora, and we've been really carving out a path here focused on customer success. So we're used by companies like Informatica, who's launched a whole new SaaS pay-as-you-go model in the cloud on Zuora, or Tata Communications, who's moving all of their telephony and cloud products on Zuora, or Box.net, a leader in storage, going against Microsoft SharePoint with a cloud-based collaboration software, or companies like AAA that have memberships and monetizing consumer membership subscriptions. So we're used by a variety of companies, from tech to media to telecom to service companies. And we feel really fortunate to be working with the SafeNet team here, because we think they got a very, very complementary solution around licensing and entitlement management. And I'll pass it over to Jake real quickly.
Thanks, Jeff. So at SafeNet, we have licensing and entitlement management solutions for all ways of delivering software. And we bring the industry's first and only licensing and entitlement management solution delivered from the cloud for SaaS offerings. Similar to Zuora, we look back at the market 3-4 years ago, and we're talking to our customers and observing the shift to SaaS and subscription-based offerings. And in our discussions, we realized that we needed to architect a new solution for licensing of subscription-based offerings, licensing of software delivered as a service, in order to really meet the challenges in that new delivery model. So as a result, we built Sentinel Cloud Services, which is a feature-based licensing solution for service-based offerings. And we really focus around five key areas. We focus around being able to define your products and services at the feature level and within the scope of license models, so that you can control the use of your services when they're licensed. And when those new services are entitled to your customers, we provide the provisioning capabilities, so those rights can be provisioned automatically into the service environment, enabling your users to use the service within the scope of those rights. And then from there, as your customers are using the service, we provide the control capabilities to ensure that users aren't exceeding their rights to use and are using both within the scope of the feature bundle that you've defined, but also within the scope of the license model. And license models can range from kind of the traditional models of user seat-based, time-based, metered usage, really runs the gamut. And models can be additive, where it's a combination of control mechanisms. In addition to the control aspects, we also collect usage information in order for you to drive those metered license models. So you'll have the usage information to pass on to Zuora to drive those metered invoices, but also that information can be used for product intelligence, helping product managers understand what features are being adopted and at what rate, and maybe what features aren't so popular. So you can drive either corrective behavior, drive training programs, adoption programs with your customers, or possibly de-invest in those capabilities. All of this provides you the ability to then adapt your service over time, adapt and flexibly change the license models by which you sell to your customers, without really having to go back into an engineering cycle every time you want to change the business. With our service integrated into your offerings, really a business side can go in, update a new model, deploy and provision that model really almost immediately in order to facilitate new business. Sentinel Cloud was architected from the ground up as a cloud offering, but also designed to scale and support service-based business offerings. It's widely accessible. We offer a broad range of pricing and for small customers to large. It's also easily scalable to support your business. And Sentinel Cloud and our entire business, for that matter, it's driven through concepts of agile and rapid innovation. So we're always delivering new releases to meet our customers' growing needs. And just to mention some of the partners that we've teamed up with in order to drive our SaaS business. We're partners with Amazon Web Services, Dell Boomi for integration, Salesforce for the relationship management, and of course Zuora from a subscription management standpoint. So just to take a step back about SafeNet and our licensing and entitlement management capabilities, we really provide a broad spectrum of capabilities to support all of the business goals that we find software publishers looking to satisfy. The ability to enforce contracts and service agreements, the ability to enable the purchasing and packaging of software through our enforcement capabilities, the ability to centralize and automate all the operational aspects around the monetization lifecycle, enabling customers to have visibility into their licensing and entitlements, as well as the use of their services. In our on-premise environment, we also provide IP protection, enabling your software to be protected. And then lastly, we provide tools to enable self-service so that your customers can manage their own license and entitlements without your direct involvement. SafeNet's been around for a while. We have over $450 million in annual revenue with over 25,000 customers globally. 1,600 employees strong. We've have a broad spectrum of customers, really ranging the entire space. And SafeNet's vision really is to enable and facilitate software monetization, regardless of the device it's delivered in, how it's sold, how you're delivering that application, whether it be through the cloud, as an installed application, or maybe a hybrid solution that includes an installed app plus a cloud component. And to deliver that regardless of the business model by which you choose to sell. Again, whether it's time limited, subscription, pay per use, we're really here to enable your business. So I think you'll find that the combination of Zuora's offerings from a billing and payment standpoint and SafeNet's offerings from a licensing and entitlement standpoint really answer the new challenges that you'll find in your move to the subscription business. And both Sentinel Cloud and Zuora offer free trials, and we urge you, if you haven't already, to check us out and give us a run. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to help us with Q&A.
Great. Thanks, gentlemen. I'm going to open the floor to the audience to address questions now. Just a reminder, if you'd like to ask the presenters a question, please click the questions button on your screen. You can also submit a question using Twitter by tagging your question with the hashtag LDIITC. Again, that's short for Let's Do It in the Cloud. So with that, there was a couple, I think there's a couple easier questions to start with, just to set the stage for what's been discussed. One of the questions was just clarification on how both parties, SafeNet and Zuora, are defining both SaaS and cloud. So maybe if I hand it over to you, Jeff, first, and then Jake, you can either add on or...
So the way that the two solutions would work together is we have a set of open APIs, and SafeNet has an open set of APIs. And if you're an ISV and you're building your product, you would be able to, build SafeNet into your core product, and then you would link that product into Zuora. So an example would be on your website you have signups, and somebody signs up for your professional edition for 5 users. As Zuora would take the transaction, we would then track against that customer. That customer has signed up for 5 users. Their start date is today. Their term is 18 months, and they're entitled to 5 users. And we would make sure that data is in sync with SafeNet, who is managing the entitlements and access control in the core product. Jake, maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, Jeff. That's exactly right. We would basically pick up the product information that was created as part of the subscription, and from that subscription we would create an entitlement and provision those rights, and then control against those rights. So if it's 5 users on the Pro bundle, that's exactly the set of features that would be enabled for that customer, and the number of users that would have access. And then over time, as changes occur, from a subscription standpoint, we would take those changes and update those rights in order to ensure that a customer remains in compliance to their subscription. So next question here is, I think for both of us, Jeff, how do we define SaaS and how do we define cloud? So I think cloud is really a way to deliver infrastructure at a more cost-effective manner. It's really the combination of virtualization, ready bandwidth, good bandwidth globally, and low-price infrastructure delivered in a highly scalable way. As for SaaS, SaaS is essentially software as a service. So it's turning software into a subscription-based model rather than a perpetual license model. Jeff, what do you think?
Jake, I would agree with your definition there, and I don't think I have anything to add.
Great. I think the next question, again, is one I think that you could probably both address. There is, it basically says the engineering team that this person is working with has indicated that they can build both the billing and the licensing capabilities in-house, and was wondering if there was a couple of examples that we could provide as to customers or use cases where somebody has come to us after building it in-house for either the billing or the licensing piece, and what broke, or what was the breaking point to make them decide to go commercial.
Yeah, I can address that, and maybe Jake, you can elaborate. There was an IDC case study that was published by Amy Connery, who was on the webinar a couple of, maybe it was last week or the week before. She published a case study, and in that case study, both SafeNet and Zuora were featured there. An example of that is Salesforce.com and Radian6. Salesforce.com has built their own homegrown billing system around Oracle. Zuora's CEO was the architect around that. And absolutely, you know what, you can make Oracle or SAP work for order management and billing. It's complex. It requires coding. Most companies that are moving to the cloud are saying, hey, I don't really want to actually divert resources to do that. I want my resources to focus on core product development that's going to drive revenue, not focus on back office billing. So in that case study really highlights how Radian6 and Salesforce has now adopted Zuora as really the core subscription management and billing engine around handling everything from usage-based pricing to subscriptions to handling billing and payments. And absolutely, you're going to have Oracle and SAP coexist in an enterprise. We have hundreds of examples of customers that have those systems, but what they're doing with Zuora is just like how CRM really revolutionized how salespeople and marketing people work in the cloud. We're doing the same for any ISV or any type of company that is moving to a services model to be enabling the business person, the finance person, the ops person, the IT person to do pricing in the cloud, to do quoting and orders in the cloud, to be able to do changes of subscriptions or amendments or renewals in the cloud, to do usage-based pricing in the cloud. And what's really, really powerful is that there's no coding required. So you can actually deploy this in rapid seconds. So if Salesforce Radian6 had to make a pricing change because of a competitor coming out with a different price plan or roll out an international price plan, you could do that in Zuora in a matter of minutes and deploy it on your website, deploy it in your application, deploy it globally, and you don't have to go call the IT or development or the Oracle or SAP core staff to say, can you guys code this pricing model in the system to make it happen? Obviously, you can do that if you want to do it, but what we're seeing as critical today in the cloud is time to market, time to revenue, and really resource allocation. Do you want your resources allocated to back office billing, or do you want them focused on core product development? We mostly see that our customers are saying, we want our resources focused on core product development. Jake, maybe you want to elaborate on the SafeNet side.
Yeah, Jeff, the answer is very similar. We do find prospects who often are questioning the build versus buy, and in some cases they choose to build. But it's not uncommon for them to come back over in a period of time, whether it's 6 months or a year or even 2 years, and come back with what they've built, which is in many cases a very hard-coded, strict system. And as their business changes, they find themselves having to go back and reinvest multiple times in order to evolve. But the good news with a solution like Sentinel Cloud and Zuora, for that matter, are that we're answering to a large number of customers with a broad set of requirements. And as a result, we're then able to offer a lot of flexibility in licensing and entitlement management in order to meet all those customers' needs. And I think that really is the driver. We're focused on this as an expertise, and I would assume that as an ISV, you want to be focused on your core expertise in the applications that you develop for your customers.
Great. Thanks, guys. So, Jake, I think the next question is for you. The question is around how Sentinel Cloud integrates with our customer solutions. Is it something that needs to be embedded to control the code? And then secondly, is there flexibility and what usage they choose to track using the product?
Sure. Yeah. At wherever you define features within your application, you'll implement a very simple set of APIs, which basically are called in order to determine whether a user or identity has access to that feature at that given time. So feature plus scope of the license model. So it's a simple integration. As far as what types of usage we track, it really can range anywhere from something as simple as an execution or as diverse as bandwidth metrics or data transferred. So it's really a broad set of metrics that you can track from a usage standpoint.
Great. Jeff, I think the next question, if I'm reading it correctly, is directed for you. I think the question is whether the Zuora billing system works with transaction-based pricing models.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way you want to define pricing is you could have one-time pricing, which is really a flat fee pricing. You could build once. You can also have recurring pricing, which is monthly, quarterly, annual, 3-month, 18-month, whatever term that you want. And then you can have transactional usage-based pricing. So what is that? I want to have a unit that is based on how much CPU consumption or how much bandwidth consumption, or if you're a media company, how many articles people are viewing, or if you're a software as a service company, maybe you have a multi-faceted model where you have a per seat license, but then you have some sort of overage charge based on storage capacity being consumed. So what you can do with Zuora is you can actually define what type of model you want to have. So if you want to just have a simple transactional-based pricing model, great. But in the future, you may want to move to a tiered model, an overage model like your cell phone plan, include more one-time fees or 2 or 3 multiple one-time fees. You have full flexibility to define how you want to define your pricing initially and then ongoing over time.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. So I think the next one is just a quick one for you, Jake. The question is, does SafeNet also work with solutions hosted in Microsoft Azure?
And the short answer is yes. Sentinel Cloud actually is agnostic to the platform that you run on. So whether you're on Amazon, Azure, in a traditional data center, it really is not important to us. We're agnostic to the environment that you're running in.
Great. Thanks, Jake. I think the next question is a little broader, and it's probably something you can both address. Maybe, Jake, I'll kick it off to you first. It says, it sounds like both of you talk to a lot of SaaS providers in the midst of figuring out how to bring their services to market. In these conversations, what would you say the biggest or most common lesson learned, or I should have done X differently comment is?
Jeff, I think we both can answer this one. I guess lessons learned are really learn from the network and SaaS companies that have already done it before you. I recommend partnering in areas where you're not expert, whether that be going with someone like Boomi for integrations, or Salesforce for your customer management, or Zuora for billing, or us for licensing and entitlement management. I recommend really architecting your solution from the ground up with a highly scalable, multi-tenant, cloud-based offering in mind. We see oftentimes where software publishers are trying to migrate existing code, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and we find that can be a big challenge. Jeff, anything to add?
Yeah, I would add, I echo all that. I would add that you need to allow for experimentation. So you need to have the flexibility built in so that you could experiment with different type of models. And that could be on the licensing and the provisioning standpoint. You might want to bundle different features in. Or it could be on the pricing and packaging, or how you want to manage your subscriptions. You need to have that flexibility built in, because if you don't have that flexibility built in, the cloud is moving so fast, and the barriers to entry for competition is so low now that you could have a new competitor come in and they could go launch something that's a freemium model and pick up a whole bunch of customers, start to drive up into the enterprise or mid-market space that you own today, and then all of a sudden, if you don't have that flexibility to experiment with new things or to move on the fly, you're going to be caught in a conundrum of what do you do? Then you have to call your billing folks or your people that are coding, kind of your back office, and it may take a while. And we've seen countless scenarios of companies that have run into scenarios where they don't have that experimentation platform in order to enable them to be able to anticipate changes that we just don't know are going to happen today, because cloud and mobile and social has come so fast that look at all these companies that are out there now that we would have never thought would have been powerful businesses or fast-growing startups as they are today. So that is my add-on to that, Jake, is experimentation.
Yeah, that's a great one. There's actually another question that came up with someone looking for advice on the best way to promote and market a small niche SaaS application. And I think in part you touched on it. Having the ability to introduce freemium and trial type offerings really give potential customers an opportunity to use your service without any commitments, and then evolve and grow into paid for subscriptions. From a licensing standpoint, offering a free trial with, let's say, a limited time limit on it will allow your customer to use it, and then automatically you can restrict access if you chose to. Or alternatively, you could promote to them and actively, while they're using the application, suggest upgrades from free to paid. And I know from my knowledge of Zuora that's supported also on the billing side.
Yeah, I think to add to that is how would I kind of promote my application to make it known? I would leverage social media today. You could make something really, really viral. I think the question is as I have a niche application for a certain industry, hospitality or restaurants, could you make this go viral? And what are all the social media threads that could be used to promote that? How do you create a video that allows it to go even more viral, that's really catchy? How do you offer restaurants an easy way to sign up and an easy way to get started, as Jake said, and then an easy way to be able to refer another restaurant? And you want that to happen really, really fast and virally, and that is my recommendation on how do you kind of get that application out there really, really quickly.
Great, thanks, Jeff. So I think the next question also is something that you could probably both address. It's with regards to time to market with these solutions, or the impact that integrating one or both of these solutions would have on your time to market. So from deciding to invest in either or both of these systems, what's the typical time until somebody's up and running and ready to go? Jake, maybe I'll hand off to you first.
Sure. Yeah, I guess the best answer is really the feedback we get from our prospects and customers. They're really impressed at the ease of implementation and the speed at which they can get up and running. I would say that obviously the scale of implementation is going to vary from customer to customer, but it's something that can be done in just a matter of weeks. Jeff?
Yeah, depending on the size of customer you are, if you're a large enterprise and you have more complex requirements, maybe more complex integration needs, or just maybe more complex internal processes, versus if you are a new SaaS vendor, a new application provider, time to market can range anywhere from weeks to a few months. But it's nothing like the old way where you had 18-month or 2-year implementation cycles just to get something going. And then I think part of this question is, what are some of the exit possibilities? If they'd like to change vendors. From our standpoint, our customers own all of the data. So whether it's customer data, order data, subscription data, because we're built in this multi-tenant software as a service on-demand architecture, right? You have rights to all that data and the ability to use that in any way possible, and that includes if for some reason you decide that your business changes and you get acquired or something else happens. If you need to take that data with you, you have all that data, and it's really, really easy to take it away. So that is my kind of add-on answer to I think what this question is.
Great, thanks, Jeff. So I think just looking at time, it looks like there's a couple of questions that are all related. So I think we'll wrap it up with this last question. It's around, I guess the best way to summarize it is, why is there a need for both systems? There seems to be a lot of perceived overlap between both what a licensing system, entitlement management system, and a billing system provides. So maybe I'll hand it off to you, Jake, and Jeff, you can add on to his answer.
Sure. Yeah, I think the reason why there's perceived overlap is really how nicely the two offerings fit together. But to put it simply, ultimately what we do in licensing is we manage what a customer is entitled to, and we enforce that entitlement. We ensure that customers aren't using more than they're entitled to. thus providing an opportunity for you in the future to monetize additional features, products, etc., additional functionality over time as your customers grow and change. And then I'll let Jeff speak to the billing aspects of the two systems.
Sure, absolutely. Everything that Jake said, we don't do any of that, right? We actually take all that information and use that to bill, use that to collect from our customers, use that to have the data so that you can see a 360-degree view of your customer that may have one subscription or two subscriptions or 3 or 4 products tied to a subscription. Right, so we give you the granular data around managing really the billing and customer subscription information so that you can make informed decisions on how you want to manage them from a CSR or customer service rep perspective. How do you want to manage them from a renewals management standpoint? Do you want to have it auto-renew? Do you want to have a CSR make phone calls? Do you want to have them renew over the website? So, for example, if you look at like Box.net, for example, if any of you have signed up for Box.net, I think they just changed their name to Box.com. You can go to their site, sign up for their free trial, and within that application there, you can actually upgrade. You can change your plan. We then, in Zuora, will track that, oh, this change is made. John Doe has upgraded on this date, and now he's being billed incremental amount for his upgrade, right? So we're pretty clean in terms of how, the line would be drawn between how SafeNet and Zuora would work together. In that scenario, on an upgrade, we would manage the billing and the payment side of the upgrade, and then SafeNet would manage how that upgrade gets stored and aggregated in the core product application. So I think it's a great synergy between applications. I think ISVs need both. Top 2 questions that at least I heard when I was at Salesforce running a part of the App Exchange team helping ISVs get to market. Those were always the really 2 top questions that always came up by every ISV.
Great. Thanks, guys. So on that, it looks like we've addressed all the live questions that came in both on Twitter and in the webinar platform itself. So I just want to remind everyone that there is one event left in this Let's Do It in the Cloud webinar series. Jeff Kaplan, the Managing Director of Think Strategies, will be joining us next Thursday to host a virtual panel comprised of past presenters from Del Boomi, Agilis, and then also Jake and Jeff, who are here today from both Zuora and SafeNet. That panel will be guided by real-time inquiries from the audience, and Jeff Kaplan will spearhead an energetic dialogue guaranteed to answer some of the toughest questions around success in the cloud. We hope to see you all on that webinar as well. On that note, I will wrap up today's session by reminding you to visit www.safenet-inc.com/Let's Do It in the Cloud to both view on-demand replays of this and all past events in this webinar series, as well as to register for the final event next week with Jeff Kaplan. On that note, have a great rest of your day. Thank you.